What's going on, guys? Back with another video, and today I want to be talking about the latest film coming to theaters, and that is The Joker 2. I got to see an early screening of this today, and initially I had very low expectations. That was my mindset going into this movie. Going into the actual movie, I did enjoy the film. I think it has its share of issues, but overall there is an entertainment value there that I can't deny that this wasn't a bad film. Like, there's too much going on here production-wise, costume-wise, performance-wise, makeup, lighting, cinematography. There's a lot of technical achievements that do make this a pretty decent film, actually. I do see a lot of reviews that are coming out and they're like really bashing this film. There's a lot of 2-star and 1-star reviews for this film. I don't think that that's a fair assessment of a film that did bring a lot in competency in terms of the filmmaking. Where I do have issues with this film is, of course, the storytelling. I think with each act, this film gets weaker and weaker and it gets lost in its own ideas. It paints itself in a very old school type of musical, but also a kind of like a Broadway production. And it works to an extent, but it sometimes gets lost in the grandness of just putting on a show that the story it's telling isn't as clear. Consistency with the characters and the story they're telling with those characters is where the film gets lost with what it's trying to tell with them, because you'll have things like characters walking into certain situations and you're like questioning how they got there. Is this real? Is this a fantasy? And it's almost as if the film doesn't know itself, and it's kind of walking this blurred line of, are we watching something that's a work of fiction, or is this really happening? And while it's entertaining to watch, it's just a constant question that you're asking, but it's also contradicting itself. So it's like, it's very messy in terms of that storytelling and selling you any form of illusion. Joaquin Phoenix is very good in the role. I think, he gives a more subtle but balanced performance in this film. Lady Gaga, personally, I understand why they hired Lady Gaga in this film. Like, she can sing, of course, that's why we have to put her in here. From a character standpoint, I didn't really like her character. I think that they didn't do enough with her and that she was solely on screen because of her singing abilities. And, she's a performer, she's a great singer, but in this role, I don't think she brought enough to make her character stand out or even serve a purpose in here. Like, honestly, if you got rid of her character in this movie, I would have much more enjoyed this film, because every time they cut to her, I'm like, here we go, we're gonna break out into a song, because, that's what she's known for doing, and I just don't think that there was enough there to warrant that screen time for her. And with a film like this, where pacing is an issue and it gets slower and drags with each act, I feel like they needed to make cuts somewhere. Those additional musical numbers weren't needed, especially since for a musical, you go in and you want this music to be memorable. I think a successful musical is a movie that doesn't rely on established soundtracks, but rather original music that you are constantly singing to yourself even after the movie ends. And no time in this movie are you like, wow, that's a great original piece of work that I'm gonna remember after this movie is over. But as far as her, I was never interested whenever she would break into this song and dance number. If you watch the trailers, and this is my primary reason why I try to stay away from trailers, is there's a certain thing that's constantly being marketed, and it's this grand sequence on a set of steps where the Joker and Harley Quinn are dancing and they're doing their kicks and everything, and it's very heavily marketed, and it's not in this movie. And when I say that the sequence on the stairs was very heavily marketed, I mean, it's in the trailers. The poster they handed out, it actually has them dancing on the stairs, and nowhere is that in the movie. And it's just like this deceptive marketing that you're waiting for this moment to happen and it never happens. And a lot of other scenes that were in the trailer are edited out. And even talking to someone leaving the theater who knew someone that was working in the film had said that they had cut other scenes out with Lady Gaga that were much grander than what they ended up choosing. So I'm just like wondering what is going on, because like this should have been a very more exciting and grand and bold and imaginative film, and it was in parts, but a lot of times, especially towards the later stages of the film, it started losing its grip, and that's where the entertainment value started failing. While I enjoyed the first hour of this film, and I think the second half of this film is still good, The third act really kind of dropped the ball, and it didn't know where it wanted to end this story. And you know, it wrapped it up, and I can say that there is no third movie that's going to happen unless they choose to do like a Harley Quinn movie. But ultimately, while it's a film that has a lot of technical achievements that I can praise, from a story perspective, from the characters and the purpose of this film, I can't say that this succeeded in doing that. It's not as good as the first film. It's not like a terrible movie. I'm not gonna bash this movie like a lot of people are going to be, but I think it's kind of just right down there in the middle. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it did gradually get worse. And this should have been maybe like a 30-minute shorter film, or it should have rounded its characters a little bit better and maybe tightened that script up, because the ending wasn't that great for this. I'm gonna be giving The Joker 2 a B- and a 3.25 out of 5-star rating. It's solid enough. I think some people are going to enjoy enough of this to where they're like, you know what, this was a good time, but it's nowhere near as good as the first film, and it has a lot of issues. It's definitely a step down, but there's still enough there to warrant a rewatch. Just lower your expectations, and I think you can get something out of this film, but it's not the next great thing. And come award season, I'm not really sure what it would get. Maybe some actor nominations, but I don't even see this being a Best Picture nomination, honestly. But, you know, it was fine. It was enjoyable. Set your expectations lower, and might be just okay for you. Anyway, guys, that's my review of The Joker 2. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up down there below. Really appreciate the support. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below as well. And I will see you guys in a later video.